This is the foldable for section 2.7% change. We're going to start by folding it this way. So again, this is section 2.7% change. The price of a shirt went from $12 to $16, and the original price then was $12, and it moved to $16. From 12 to 16 would be an increase. The original always goes right here in the denominator. And then the difference or the change goes in the numerator. So we're going to do 16 minus 12, which is 4. You put that in your calculator. You're going to get 4 divided by 12, and it's 0.33 repeating. So we write 0.33 repeating. And to write it as a percent, we need to move it over to the right 2 decimal places. So we got 33% increase. The next one, 2.48, a gallon was $2.35 last week. That means that our original is $2.35. Our new amount is $2.48. And the reason that we know that the original was the $2.35 is because that was last week or first. The original is the one that's the numerator, $2.35. The numerator is the difference, so we take the bigger number, $2.48, and subtract $2.35. .13. Then we're going to divide these two numbers, 0.13 divided by 2.35 is 0.005, or 0.055. We move the decimal place 2 over. That means we have 5.5% as an increase because the original amount went from $2.35 to $2.48. $84 headphones were once $100. Once was $100 means that that's our original amount. Now we have 84. The original is always the one that goes in the bottom. The difference between these two, that's 100 minus 84, is the numerator. Which gives you 16. We divide those two numbers. 0.16 is the decimal that you get. To make it a percent, you move it over 2 to the right. You have 16%, and since it went from 100 to 84, it is a decrease. The price of jeans went from $40 to $36, so the original is 40, the new price is 36. The original is always the denominator, that would make it 40 right here. And then the difference between 40 and 36 is the numerator, which will be 4. 4 divided by 40 is your percent, or the decimal, 0.1. You move the decimal places 2 over, that's 1, 2. Since there's no number there, we put a placeholder of 0. So that's 10%. And since it went from 40 to 36, it is a decrease. And the inside, we have the original is 45. That makes it our denominator. Our numerator then will be the difference between 60 minus 45. 15. Then 15 divided by 45 gives us our decimal, 3.33 repeating. We move it over 2 to get our decimal. Our percent, 33.3%. So you might be wondering how many decimal places. Sometimes it's okay to have one, or usually if they're repeating, you could just have to the 10th place. If it's more than that, then you would want to put it to the hundreds place. And this is an increase because the original was 45 and then the new one is 60. Looking over here now, because the numbers look similar, but what is the original is important. That's the denominator. Our numerator is still the difference between 60 and 45, which is 15. Now we write the fraction of the number that went on top first, and then the denominator, and we got 0.25. Move your decimal place 2 over to get 25%, and this would be a decrease. For these two numbers, the original is 3.6, so we put that as the denominator. The numerator is the difference between the big number minus the small number. And it doesn't really matter which one was the original. We're just trying to get the difference between them, or the change. So minus 3.6, 5.2. Now we're going to take the fraction of divide those two numbers. We have 5.2 divided by 3.6. We have 1.4 repeating. And like I mentioned, if it's repeating, that would be close enough, and we just say that it repeats. It wouldn't round up either because it's 0.4. We moved the decimal places 2 over. So a more accurate description would have the 4 right here instead of the 0. And then the 4 keeps repeating. That means we have 144%, and this would be an increase because the original was 3.6. On these numbers, the denominator is 8.8. The difference between them, 8.8 minus 3.6, was a 5.2. Put that in our calculator. 5.2 divided by 8.8 is 5909. So we could just write 0.59. We move it over 2 to get our percent. That means 59% is our change. And since we went from 8 to a 3, that is a decrease. Next one, we have the original is 16, that's our denominator. The difference between them, 20 minus 16, is the numerator, 4. We're going to do 4 divided by 16, get our decimal, which is 0.25. Move the decimal over 2 to get your percent, 25%. And since it went from 16 to 20, this is an increase. For the next one, the denominator will be 20 because that's our original. The difference between them is still 20 minus 16, which is 4. Now we're going to do 4 divided by 20. You get 0.2 as your decimal. To make it the percent, you move it 2 over. Since there's nothing right here, we're going to use a 0 as our place value, 20% placeholder, sorry. And this is a decrease. Next one, the original is 0.5. The difference between them is 1.25 minus 0.5. Gives you 0.75. We divide that fraction, 0.75 divided by 0.5 gives you a 1.5. Still need to move the decimal place 2 over. 0 will be our placeholder, 150%. And since it went from 0.5 to 1.25, we have an increase. The next one is the original is 1.25. The difference between 1.25 and 0.5 is the difference. And our numerator, which will be the 0.75. We divide those two numbers, 0.75 divided by 0.5. And we get, this was a 0.75 divided by 1.25. And it's 0.6. Move the decimal place 2 over. That makes a 60%. And since it was from 125 to 50, a decrease.